Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. My name is Deanna Marie and I'm so happy that you're here with me. Today we are doing a very exciting video, and that is none other than the 26 books I want to read in 2026. So you could call this a 2026 TBR per se. And not only that, but we're going to be adding a very fun twist. I went to Barnes & Noble and I went ahead and collected those books, and I went around the store and got all of those together. And so I'm going to be showing you clips of going through Barnes & Noble and getting those books. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on into it. Or this way. I don't know which way. Anyways. Okay, so I'm gonna break this down into 3 different genres. The first one being romantasy, the second one being romance, and then the third one being thriller. And there'll be some other honorable mentions in there. So you'll see in this video that I have lots of books that are parts of series that I want to get into. As you can see, this amazing series above me, ACOTAR, will be included. The Throne of Glass will be included. More amazing ones will be included, but you're just gonna have to sit tight and see what's in there. So unfortunately, that first clip that I got at Barnes & Noble, terrible lighting. So I'm just gonna go ahead and re-record that clip, or I guess make a new clip. So that first series, that first book that I want to get into for the 26 books in 2026 is none other than Iron Flame. So I did read Fourth Wing. I believe it was last year. I was gifted it. I loved it. I see the hype around it. At first I was like, was this a 5-star? Was it not? Because I was just barely getting back into my reading, back into all of that. And then I realized absolutely it was a 5-star, because I'm already excited to get into the next book. And you know what? Last year was all about getting back into reading, falling in love with reading again. And you know what? If I'm going to enjoy the book, I'm going to enjoy the book, not be super strung tight on the star rating system yet. So yes, that first book is none other than Iron Flame, and I don't want to spoil anything about Fourth Wing if you haven't read it yet, but I'm assuming it's going to get more into the war side of things, more into the political side of things. So without spoiling anything, that's my first book that I want to read in 2026. And then moving on to the second book that I want to read in 2026. Oh, I do want to preface, this isn't necessarily in order, so it's not like first book, second book, third book. I know how that sounds. It's just different books, the 26 books that I want to read. And so anyways, that next book that I have on my list is none other than Onyx Storm. And so that follows also the Fourth Wing series. I know there's a name for it, but I don't quite remember. But that follows Iron Flame. I don't have that book yet, but that's the next book. I really don't know anything about that book yet, so I'm going to be going into it blind, which before I loved going into books, researching it, knowing exactly what's going on, all of that stuff. But I found that I accidentally started spoiling a lot of things for myself, just looking up like book aesthetic, because I love looking up book aesthetic before I read a book. But unfortunately, the big plot twist at the end of Fourth Wing was spoiled for me. Not the very last thing, but how can I say this safely? But the sad part, the tragedy, if you know what I mean. That part was already spoiled for me. I did already know that. So I am happy to get to go into Iron Flame and Onyx Storm blind. So those are the first 2 books. Okay, and then the next series is none other than finishing the ACOTAR series. And so the next book that I have to read for that series is A Court of Wings and Ruin. Okay, and when it comes to the ACOTAR series, I was a little nervous on whether or not it would live up to the hype. So the backstory of actually starting the ACOTAR series was I actually read Assassin's Blade in the Throne of Glass series, but then I realized and found out that you're supposed to read, not that you're supposed to, but it could spoil things just in order to read ACOTAR first before reading the Throne of Glass series. And so that's how I jumped into it. I was super slow on that first one. It took me a long time to get into it, but let me tell you, it is so worth it. This series is amazing. I can't even put into words. Again, I've only finished the first and second book, so I will be starting the ACOWAR up there. But if ACOWAR is anything like the second book was beautiful. It was enchanting. It really took you into that world, and it was like you were it just reminded me truly of why I loved reading. It was so immersive, it was beautiful, and just some things that, this is a tangent, but just some things that kind of helped me get into that space was I did find on YouTube what would you call that? I specifically searched up, oh shoot, I don't want to say, but I specifically searched up blank court ambiance, and then I had that playing in the background, and it actually showed the place. Oh, I don't want to say it, but if you know what I'm saying, just search up the ambiance on YouTube, have it playing on your TV, have it playing on whatever in the background, so you can see that, you can hear the sounds, and it just really truly makes it immersive, and it's like you're there. It's just amazing, a beautiful reading experience. But yes, so that next book that I have on my list is ACOWAR, and originally I was kind of scared finishing the second book because I thought that was the best book out of the series, but now I'm hearing that tons of people love ACOWAR as well, just as much if not more, and so I'm very excited to get to see what all it holds. I don't actually know anything about ACOWAR. Like I said, I accidentally spoiled a lot of stuff for myself, so a lot of stuff in that second book was spoiled for me, but thankfully this book, I'm going into it mostly blind. I still have some spoilers, but for the most part, I'm going into it blind, and I'm very excited about that. And then finishing this book, going into the next one, would be A Court of Frost and Starlight, this sweet little novella. So I just know of this as a sweet little wintertime novella romance. It's a super small book, super short, super sweet, just kind of that sweet fairy tale book is kind of what the vibes I'm getting from it. Again, I don't know too many spoilers about it, but that's what I've seen from looking at kind of the vibes and stuff like that I'm getting off of it. Or what is that called? It's like the aesthetic that I've seen off of it. And so yes, A Court of Frost and Starlight. And then you guessed it, following suit is A Court of Silver Flames. I say finishing, but I know that she's coming out, Sarah J Maas is coming out with another book in the ACOTAR series, but I want to make sure I get through what's already published right now so that I can also go into the Throne of Glass series before that next book comes out. So yes, if you've read this series, I know it's a highly loved one. Go ahead and comment down below and tell me what book was your favorite and what was your favorite book quote, as long as it doesn't spoil anything, because I've had a lot of things spoiled. But yes, this was the next series. So I've heard a lot of whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. I've heard a lot of that over A Court of Silver Flames, just because people don't appreciate, is it Nessa or Nesta? I think it's Nesta. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But they don't like her point of view. They see her as like stuck up. That's the older sister, I believe, in the series, and it sheds light on her point of view as well as her romance with another character in the series, is what I've seen of it so far. I'm excited to kind of see what that's about, because I want to see that perspective of the oldest daughter and see what it sheds light on, because I'm an oldest daughter, and so I kind of want to see what that's portrayed as in this series and what she can bring to the table, because she was sprinkled throughout at least the first and second book. Again, I haven't read the third book yet, or even further, but she was sprinkled throughout there, and we're made to dislike her. She's mean, she's, you know, very cruel, and I just want to see her perspective, because I feel like she can shed tons of light on the situation, just like that one chapter that we got. Oh shoot, I almost just spoiled something, so I can't say that. But just like that one specific chapter we got in this book, where it shed light on perspectives and what was going on from someone else's point of view, if you know what I'm saying. But yes, that was the next book. Okay, if we're building off of what I just said, we can all guess what the next series and the next books that I want to read next are none other than the Throne of Glass series. I thought it would be easier to just grab the box set than grabbing one book at a time, and it would be less confusing because I haven't read this whole series yet. So that would be Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and then finishing with Kingdom of Ash. So I know that these two books get tandem read a lot. Sorry, there's tons of reflection off. But the Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I know that those get tandem read a lot, and so I'm kind of iffy on tandem reading because I know they're happening at the same time, but I feel like it's a lot of work and kind of strenuous to have to go between the two. Like, you read a chapter, then you go to the other chapter. But if it's worth it, go ahead and comment down below, or if you read them separately, comment down below and let me know what you think about whether to tandem read or whether not to tandem read. But yes, those were the next books in my 26 books that I want to read in 2026. Can you tell I love romantasy? The next series is that series that I mentioned, the Throne of Glass series. And so I actually already had read Assassin's Blade, but I want to go ahead and revisit it just because now I will have read, well, at this point when I read it, I will have read the ACOTAR series. And really I just want to get back into that world, so I will reread the Assassin's Blade. And then going in that order, thankfully I really truly don't know honestly what is in this series, but I'm hoping it lives up to the hype. It's kind of reminding me of a book that I had read. I don't remember what it's called, but I had read it growing up, and it had several short stories in it. Not getting into that, but I just really hope that this lives up to its hype. I think it will. I'm excited to see what happens. I've looked up the aesthetic and stuff, and it's actually a little different than what I had before pictured it as, and so I'm excited. I'm hoping there are no spoilers for me. I already know the very tragic spoiler, but aside from that, really nothing. Oh, the heater just turned on. 1 second. Okay, hopefully that's a little better. But yes, following that series, or I guess looking at that series, I don't know too much about it, so I'm very happy about that. Because of that, I really don't have much to say about the series, so I will just list them off, or I'm sure I already listed them off, but that's Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. So from what I've seen, I'm pretty sure Kingdom of Ash is devastating. And then I've also seen Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn get tandem read a lot, and I'm actually very nervous about that. I am currently reading, well, I'm about to get into that series next, but I'm currently reading Powerless, and I chose not to tandem read Powerless and Powerful just because I was kind of nervous of, I guess what I say, it just seemed kind of tedious to me, kind of going back and forth and seeing what that might look like. So I was a little nervous about doing that, so I opted out of doing that. So I am reading those separately. But I know they really recommend, or the girls I've seen anyways, really recommend tandem reading it, because when you go back, it kind of feels like you're left on a cliffhanger, and then you just have to reread from a different point of view because it's happening at the same time. And so go ahead and comment down below if you have tandem read it, if you haven't, if you recommend tandem reading, if you don't. Just because I'm a little nervous to tandem read, and yeah, just go ahead and leave those recommendations down below. And another thing that is heavily discussed on this series is where to read Assassin's Blade. So I chose to read Assassin's Blade first because a friend recommended that to me when she suggested this series a long time ago, back when I was in high school. But I chose to read that first, well, because she recommended it, but also after seeing the, like, I was about to say controversy. Whatever, it's fine. I'm just struggling with that word today. But seeing the debate on where that should be placed, originally I didn't even know that was a debate after I had read it. But I do recommend reading it first. Again, you can do your own research and see what you think, but I do recommend reading it first just because it's a prequel. It tells you all of this stuff. There's different ways to read it because, I don't know, there's just tons of different ways to read it, but you can research that. Some ways it's more tragic, some ways it's at least you get some history before you go into it so you're not confused. Sometimes if you read it later, then you're confused going up, then it answers those questions. So there's tons of different ways to read it, but I recommend looking that up to see what you prefer. But yes, I will be reading it first, and I have read it first, so yes. And that was the Assassin's Blade book. I'm not sure if I said that. I hope I did. Okay, and then the next series is actually one that I'm currently reading, and that first book is Powerless. And so I know there's a whole fan base around that series, just like there is for ACOTAR, and the same thing for the Throne of Glass series. So yes, I'm reading the first book, and I'm actually at the station right now. You can't really see it, but let me go ahead and grab those books. Okay, so they just recently came out with special editions, and I've seen some yellow covers and yellow sprayed edges. I've seen some pink ones. I've seen some blue ones, and this one is the pink version that they have here. Barnes & Noble. And so yes, that's that first version of Powerless, or that first book in the Powerless series. So I am currently reading Powerless right now. I don't know where the book is at. It's over there. But I'm currently reading Powerless right now. When I tell you, I was like, is this worth the hype? Is it as good as it seems to be? I'm a little over halfway, and let me tell you, yes, absolutely. I love it. I sat down and I read so much yesterday. I am trying out a new way of reading, and that is immersive reading. So different than just putting on an ambiance on the TV and putting some sound, but it's also listening to the audiobook while reading at the same time. And you can also put an ambiance on in the big background as well. But it's been really fun doing that, honestly. And of course you can speed up the narration and stuff like that to read faster to your reading speed. But I think it's been so fun to do that, especially since it's like different point of views. And so instead of your mind having to make up those voices of the different characters, and sometimes I get confused if there's like a new character introduced where they're saying something, but I didn't realize, like when I'm reading, I didn't realize that was a new character saying that. I was thinking it was a previous character. And so having that narration just really helps kind of cut out the questions and stuff like that. So you get to see what's going on and who's saying what. And so I think that's very fun. I have been doing that. I want to continue doing that. I'm not sure if I will, but I do want to continue doing that if possible. And so yes, Powerless, 100% worth it. I'm a little over halfway. I want to finish it. I have 190 pages left. I did the math yesterday. I read 130 pages yesterday. And I reread the story because I had read it before, but I had kind of like just sleepily read through it, and I really wanted to make sure I got everything out of it that I could. So I actually restarted the book when I was about 29% of the way, and I restarted the book and reread what I had read up to that point. Even with doing that, I still love it so much. And so I do recommend it. Lots of yearning, lots of banter. It actually is a romance where they really care. How do I say it? It is just a very romance heavy romantasy, and that is what I love. And so going into this other books, I have no idea about what's in the other books, so I'm very excited. Aside from Powerful, this is book 1.5, so this is actually an in-between novella where it dives into Adina, I believe is her name, Adina's story and her point of view, which is actually Peyton, the main character in Powerless. It's her best friend. And so it's a really tiny novella book, but this one is essential to read before you continue the series. Powerful is the tandem read, or can be the tandem read, but it's the novella, so the 0.5 book. So the correct order as just a trilogy, which originally was, but she came out with novellas in 0.5 books. So it's Powerless, Powerful, Reckless, Fearless, Fearful. Anyways, I can put it up correctly how it is. But yes, I don't really know anything else in the books except for I saw one devastating quote. I don't even want to spoil it for anyone else, but I saw one devastating quote for a character, and I was like, dang, now I already know that part of it. So this year I'll be much more careful looking into the aesthetics of books and looking at, yeah, just the second I see a video, scroll. The second I see a video about that, I'm just gonna scroll because I spoiled so many good books doing that on accident. So no more of that. But yes, the next series was the Powerless series. And I'm pretty sure Powerless ends on a cliffhanger. And so that's why people like tandem reading Powerless and Powerful, because they are happening at the same time, just different points of views. Kind of like, dang, you have to like read that, then end on a cliffhanger, then still go back to Dina's point of view, because you have to read that. I get so nervous I'm saying the names wrong because it can get confusing. You have to read Powerful first before you continue and read the last book. And so, yes, you could equally feel as if, oh, I don't want to have to backtrack in the story, and so you want to tandem read it, but either way, I will be reading them separately. The next one that you would go into after that is Reckless, and I actually got gifted this for Christmas. I have that in my other book video before this, was books I got for Christmas, and that was one of them in there. Next we have Fearless, and then finally it ends with Fearful. I'm not totally sure if that's the completion of the series, because I'm pretty sure it was originally going to be just a trilogy, but then the novellas were added in between, and so just in case there are other books, don't quote me on that. But yes, this was the next series that I wanted to read. Have we seen a pattern? There's a lot of romantasy series that I want to get into this year. Okay, the next and last book in the romantasy genre of books that I want to read in 2026 is none other than Guild, and I looked for it, but they don't actually have the first book in the series. I can go ahead and insert right here how beautiful that series is all together. I think they're so pretty, just getting to see how it all flows on the bookshelf and how it could all come together. And that is part of the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. So if you girls have read that book or know anything about it, or that series I should say, go ahead and comment down below, because I'm kind of intrigued about it, but I really haven't heard too many people talk about it as much as necessarily ACOTAR or Throne of Glass I've heard about. So if you've read it, if you've heard about it, go ahead and comment down below what you think about that series, what you rated it, and if I should read it. Okay, and then this next book is also a romantasy, if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't heard too much about it, and that is the book Guild. They didn't have the book there in Barnes & Noble, so I'll have to insert a picture here, or I might insert it in the other clip, or I can just do both. But it is from the, well, I know I said it in the other clip, but the Plated Prisoner series, something like that. And again, I really truly don't know too much about it, but from what I had seen, it looks like it would be a fun read. And because I don't know too much about it, are we seeing a pattern happening here? Because I don't know too much about it and it is getting good reviews, I think that would be such a fun series to dive into and just really see what that series is all about. And I was actually drawn to that book series, I want to say a year and a half ago or a year ago. I don't quite remember, because of how pretty the spines are and how beautiful they truly are. And I thought, even if I don't read this, that would just be so beautiful on the bookshelf. But now I do want to give it a read. And so yes, that is the last book on the romantasy genre side for the books I want to read in 2026. Obviously there'll be more books that I'm reading, or I hope, fingers crossed, that there are more books that I'm reading than just 26 books. But because I do have to do school and other things. But yes, that is the last book, the last romantasy book in this list. Okay, and then these next books that I'm going to show, I actually don't have these on my 2026 TBR, but we'll see if I end up getting to them. Go ahead and comment down below once you see what they are, if they're worth the read. If not, I see that this author is coming out with lots of books. She's even coming out with a new book, and so she's just been getting those books out there. And so let me know down below if this series is worth it. It's the Lightlark series. I know there's several books. I know there's one book that she has where it's like a flip book. If you know what I'm talking about, it's like you read it one way, you flip it upside down, you read it the other way. I'm pretty sure that's how that goes, but that might be a separate series. Like I said, that author has a lot of books coming out, and so let me know if that's worth the dive. I'm now going to be switching genres into romance, and those books that I want to cover are none other than the Emily Henry books. And the first one that I want to read, I actually was gifted for Christmas, and I covered that in the other video before. If you want to go see it and go check it out, it's up there for you girls to watch. And the first one is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Is that just the prettiest cover? I think it's so beautiful. I got gifted for that. I got gifted that book for Christmas, and not only is the cover beautiful, but it's, from what I've heard, it's about, okay, let me make sure I can explain this correctly. So there are, these two people are gonna get engaged, but then they go off and cheat with their partners and they get together, if that makes sense. Did that even make sense? Anyways, But so they're navigating this together. I'm pretty sure they needed a roommate or something like that. So these two people are about to get engaged, and then these two people, okay, how did I say this? Right. These people are both getting engaged with each other or something like that. Okay, never mind. I'm just gonna, hold up. I don't know if I'm keeping those clips in or not. That was crazy. I'm just gonna read the back of the book from Funny Story because that was silly. That was a struggle. Okay, I'm gonna read it to you. It says, Daphne always loved the way her fiance, Peter, told their story, how they met on a blustery day, fell in love over an errant hat, and moved back to his lakeside hometown to begin their life together. He really was good at telling it, right up until the moment he realized he was actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra, I'm not sure, which is how Daphne begins her new story, stranded in beautiful Wanning Bay, Michigan, without friends or family, but with a dream job as a children's librarian that barely pays the bills, and proposing to be roommates with the only person who could possibly understand her predicament, Petra's ex, Miles Nowak. Nowak, I'm not sure. Scruffy and chaotic with a penchant, I can't read today, penchant for taking solace in the sounds of heartbreak love ballads, Miles is exactly the opposite of practical, buttoned-up Daphne, whose coworkers know so little about her, they have a running bet that she's either FBI or in witness protection. The roommates mainly avoid one another until one day, while drowning in their sorrows, they form a tenuous friendship and a plan. If said plan involves posting deliberately misleading photos of their summer adventures together, well, who could blame them? But it's all just for show, of course, because there's no way Daphne would actually start her new chapter by falling in love with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex, right? So, yes, that is Funny Story. That was a struggle to get through explaining that, but that is the first book in the romance section of these books. I definitely want to read more romance this year and not just romantasy. So if you girls have any great recommendations down below, go ahead and comment those because I do want to dive more into just romance. So, I mean, obviously romantasy is romance, but you know what I mean. And then Beach Read, I hear so much love over this book. And finishing up with the Emily Henry books, the last one is none other than Book Lovers. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I've heard tons of great stuff. I actually don't know what it's about really. I've read the back of the book here and there, but I really don't know too much about it. And that same applies for Beach Read. So I really don't know too much about that one either, but I've heard amazing things about it. So, okay, and then this series is also well loved. I only have the first book here that I have listed out. I don't have the whole series listed out here, but that is none other than Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I actually have the special edition at home, but this was what they had here at Barnes & Noble, and so I do want to get into that series. I know Sarah Caroli just raves about it, so I'm excited to see what that entails and what all that's about. I put this under romance, but I know that it's not necessarily romance, and so just keep that in mind when you go into it. It's not necessarily a healthy relationship. It's not something to model after. It's just literature. Okay, some people love it, some people hate it, but the next book is Magnolia Parks, and that is a whole, what's called the Magnolia Parks universe, I'm pretty sure, and it's between, there's Magnolia and BJ, and then oh my goodness, Daisy hates and whoever her love interest is. And it goes back and forth in the series. So one book will be Magnolia's romance and the other book will be Daisy's romance. Then the next book is Magnolia's romance and then Daisy's romance. And so that first book that I will be reading is Magnolia Parks, that first book of that series. I don't have the rest of the series on this list, but we'll just see obviously what happens. And I did get the special edition copy at the Barnes & Noble sale. I get more into that in the Christmas video previously. A lot of these books that I'm mentioning are actually in my previous video as well, where I go more in depth and dive deeper into them in my previous video where I talk about the books that I got for Christmas. And Magnolia Parks, it's important that you know, while it is categorized under romance, it's important to know that it's a very toxic relationship, a very toxic cycle. And so really just go into this series and really go into this book knowing that it kind of mirrors Gossip Girl. So it's toxic. I'm pretty sure it's set in the UK. And so think high class fashion. They're cheating on each other. They're getting back at each other, but they love each other, but they are so toxic to each other. And that's basically, I've heard it say it's like reading a reality TV show, if that makes sense. And so yes, that is what that book is about, but definitely go into it knowing it's not a romance per se that you would want to model after. So yeah. Okay, and then the next romance book is Addicted to You, and I don't think that they had this in Barnes & Noble when I went, but I can go ahead and insert a picture right here or right here. Maybe I'll do both, I don't know. But the Addicted to You, that's part of the Addicted Calloway series, and I had heard so much about this series, how it's so loved. I think I originally heard about it from Steph on YouTube. She was one of the original booktubers that I used to watch. I don't exactly know how to say her last name. Is it Steph Brower or Steph? I don't even exactly remember what it is. But yes, I had seen that book series from her, and so I had picked up that book. My book copy is a little battered and beaten because I had carried it everywhere with me. From what I remember, it's about an alcoholic and someone that's addicted to something else, and they're friends and they have an apartment together. They're at this college and they're basically just trying to figure out their own addictions and helping each other get through each other's addictions, but they're both in their own addictions. And so that's what that first book is about. And it's them trying to navigate. I think they end up falling in love with each other, but them trying to navigate that and figure all of that out. And then Twisted Love is another series. I don't remember who I heard that from. Maybe it was also from her as well. Heard about this series, but Twisted Love is it's a series that goes, there's one friend group and it goes through each couple in the friend group. Or they're not necessarily a friend group, but it's like you know all about those characters, and like they split off in relationships, if you know what I mean. And each book has different tropes, different types of relationships, and this first one is about like billionaire CEO, has a past with this sunshine, happy-go-lucky girl. You know, she's experienced tragedy too, but nothing can get her down. He's experienced tragedy and he wants to basically avenge his whatever happened to him, and I don't want to spoil it if that's not on the back of the book. But yes, I just want to be careful that I don't spoil that. But those parts aren't spoilers. But that is that series, and so that is that book, and I did like that one too. I have actually gotten into Addicted to You and Twisted Love. I've read both of those a little bit into them, but I just haven't finished them because I was in a massive, ginormous book slump last year. But I definitely want to touch back on those books because they were entertaining, quick reads. So those are the last books out of the romance part of this list. And then honorable mention, continuing on the Jessa Hastings pattern, I don't know, the next book is The Conditions of Will. So I don't have this on my TBR, but it is one that I'm pretty sure I will hit in 2026, hopefully, and that is none other than The Conditions of Will. So again, I've heard so much great stuff about this book. If you've read it, if you recommend it, go ahead and comment that down below what you rated it. And last but not least, I said I would be touching on thriller, and while there is only one book in this TBR, don't worry, there'll be much more books and much more thriller books, I'm sure, in all the monthly TBRs to come, so stay tuned. But the very last book of this video, if you haven't seen it already, is The Housemaid's Secret. So funny story about this, I actually thought that when I got the first book, The Housemaid, I was gonna read this one because I had heard the review about this one and thought that was The Housemaid, if that makes sense. So now I'm finally gonna get to dive into this one. I have a different cover at home because I specifically wanted the purple cover because I felt like the blue and the purple together just looked so beautiful on the shelf. Then last but certainly not least is The Housemaid's Secret. And so I probably got into this in the clip in Barnes & Noble, I'm pretty sure I did. But yes, when I heard Sarah Crowley recommend this book on her video, I had actually thought when I read The Housemaid, I was reading The Housemaid's Secret because I had heard what she said about The Housemaid's Secret. and I thought that's what The Housemaid was when I bought it, and so it wasn't, but that is a continuation of the story. And so I'm now going to be reading that story about, well, that story now, which is the second book in the Housemaid series. And that Housemaid movie just came out. It was amazing. 10 stars, 5 stars, totally recommend it. It was so good. Having read the book being adapted into a movie, totally recommend. It was so fun. I would watch it again. But a little synopsis, or a little, what is that called? Summary of the book. I just cannot, I'm at a loss of words. I'm jumbling up my words. Okay, you gotta be patient with me this video. But this book is about, from what I can remember was told to me, is about, there's this housemaid that follows the same housemaid in the first book. She goes into this second book, and she's hired onto this family's property, obviously, to help them and be their housemaid. And there's one locked door that she can't go behind because she's told, you know, the wife is sick, or it's something like that. The wife is sick, you can't go there, the door is always locked. She's like, what's going on behind closed doors? Sometimes she hears yelling, screaming, she's wondering what's going on behind there, and I'm pretty sure it's the husband that tells her she's not allowed to go behind the closed door, she's not allowed to go back there. And she's doing her laundry and bringing her food and stuff like that, but she never gets to actually see what's going on until then. Some blood is found on the neckline of one of the nightgowns, I'm pretty sure, that she washes for the lady that's stuck behind that door. And so one thing leads to another. It's suspenseful. That's what I've heard about it. And so I'm very excited to get to read that book. And yes, that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you girls love this video, go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment. I want to hear all about the books that you're reading. I want to hear if you recommend these books, which books I should read first, what were your favorite books, 5-star reads. And if you've made it this far in the video, comment the celebrating emoji where there's confetti and there's, like, you know what I'm talking about. But yes, go ahead and comment that down below if you've made it this far in the video. And without further ado, bye sis.